This is my interview with Conservative MP Andrew Bridgen for North West Leicestershire. I asked him questions on coronavirus, on why Leicester is one of the worst affected places in the United Kingdom for COVID-19, on the travel restrictions that have been enforced for people travelling back to the UK. So please enjoy. Thank you for watching. Andrew, thanks so much for agreeing to this interview. Over the last few weeks, we have seen the cases of COVID-19 flaring up in certain regions, including Manchester, East Lancashire and parts of West Yorkshire have now been banned from meeting others from different households indoors. Have the lockdown restrictions been eased too soon? And is a second national lockdown now inevitable?
I think so. What we need is people to play by the guidelines. Where people or communities have decided not to adopt the guidelines for social distancing, wearing masks in retail outlets, not meeting other households, I think that's where the system's broken down. But they've been exacerbated by other problems. Obviously, Leicester's not far away from my constituency. I'm well aware of what's going on there. I was the MP who raised the issue of the modern slavery in Leicester East, and that's had a huge impact. I mean, when you've got overcrowded housing, and not slightly overcrowded, I mean, in the door-to-door COVID testing in Leicester East, they found one household with 39 adults in a 3-bedroom terraced house, and all of them tested positive for COVID, and that's not surprising, is it?
Mm-hmm. I was going to move on to that because I know your constituency of North West Leicestershire is actually outside of the city of Leicester. But why has Leicester been one of the worst affected areas? Is it completely to blame for the sweatshops? I know there was a workers' rights group, Labour, behind the label, said some staff were actually made to go into work and they had symptoms of coronavirus and they were still asked to go into work. Is this completely to blame for the high incidence in Leicester?
It's a major contributing factor. I've been working with the Labour behind the label for some time. They produced a very good report from whistleblowers they'd contacted of the conditions inside these sweatshops. Well, it's a lot of different issues in Leicester. You've got multi-generational households. Leicester is the city with the highest immigrant population in the UK. The situation there is you've often got multi-generational households. We know that young people live in cities. There's more young people live in cities than the countryside. We know that young people themselves the younger generation are less likely to abide by the lockdown rules. They probably think they've got less chance of suffering severe symptoms, and they're probably right. But where you've got multi-generational households, what they're actually doing is they're going out and coming back probably asymptomatic, but then grandpa and grandma end up going to hospital because they're vulnerable. You've also got quite a large food industry processing industry in Leicester. Obviously, they've been critical workers and they've worked through the lockdown. Obviously, if you're continuing to work and they are critical industries, you've got to feed the country, they've got to go to work, and that is an increased risk. But by far the largest contributor is the fact that the hotspot in Leicester was mostly in the northeast corner. That's in the constituency of Leicester East, and that's where all the slave factories are. And if you've got factories, they were working for internet retailers, and an unintended consequence of the government's policy of shutting non-essential retail down was that they actually wiped out all their competition on the high street. So if you wanted or needed or had to buy clothes during the lockdown, you had to go onto the internet. So the internet retailers actually had a 50% increase in their business during the lockdown. And so they forced the modern slaves to come in and work even longer hours in more cramped conditions. And then they're returning to massively overcrowded housing. And I would put to your listeners that is a recipe for spreading the virus. And we shouldn't be surprised that that's actually happened.
And you've rightly so raised the issue of the sweatshops. Why hasn't this come about previously? Why hasn't more been done about this? Obviously it's come to light now, but has the council been aware of this for many years?
It's impossible not to be aware of what's going on in Leicester. I've actually been raising it for a couple of years. Whistleblowers came to me a long time ago with outrageous allegations about the number of sweatshops, the working conditions, the living conditions, the number of illegal migrants working for £3 or less an hour in Leicester. And the reason they came to me, and my seat does not border Leicester, is they had no confidence in their local elected officials to do anything about it, because they could see it getting worse and worse and worse. And I actually went there quite a number of times to Leicester East, early in the morning, and toured around some of these sites a long, long time ago to verify for myself that what appeared to be outrageous claims going on, of things going on in our country in 2020, they were actually true, and it was actually probably worse than I was being told it was. So there's no doubt that the local officials know what's going on, the local representatives. One of the major sites for the sweatshops, they're located mainly in large industrial buildings that have been abandoned by the company that was working there decades ago. They're in very, very bad repair, and they've been split up into multiple units. So there might be 10, 20, 30, or in some cases, maybe 40 of these sweatshops working out of one large old factory, which when you look at it, you can see that it's not fit for anybody to work in. It's probably condemned. Mm-hmm. But the scale of the problem is that I've estimated that there's probably, looking at the 200, 250 sweatshops, there's probably something in the region of 10,000 people working in conditions of modern slavery. A large number of them will be illegal migrants. That equates to about 1 in 8 or 1 in 9 adults walking the street in Leicester East. How does anyone not know that's happening? And one of the factories, one of the major sites on St Saviour's Road, is not a cricket ball's throw from a huge police station, which means that the modern slaves must have to walk past the police station twice a day at least. It's unbelievable that people don't know. It's so obvious. And then, the film crews have been in Leicester. They've shown people the conditions of the factories where the windows are all bricked in and there's just cardboard pushed against the glass what's left of the glass on the inside. No ventilation, no heating in the winter, no cooling in the summer. But one of the major problems is that they've got a good network of informants. So when enforcement are going round now, I had a meeting with the Home Office last week, and they said that they're going into factories and there's no one in there, but the sewing machines are red hot.